Uh, Good day, students. I have about 15 minutes to do this. Um, Remember, in chapter 3, we dealt with designing a training program. So now in chapter 4, we are going to be talking about presenting this training program in practice. That is, our focal point will be in the application part of it. So if we are going to apply it in practice, remember that there are factors to consider, but we'll talk about that later on. So, right now, let's get into it. This chapter is called Presenting a Training Program in Practice. And I, I want to say that it is divided into three categories. Category one would be that category of checklist before the training commences. There has to be some kind of preparation for it to ensure that it is a successful training. Then there is the operation part of it. That is the second one. Then the third one is dealing with stress and the nerves that come with this training. It really takes what we call skill or experience to be able to control your nerves. An example would be if you're going to present, you know how nerve-wracking can become. So, well, without any further ado, let us begin. First of all, let us look at the learning objectives. After completing this module, a student should be able to list items to be included in checklist for training venue. That is one, for training venue, for equipment and materials. 3, for registration. 4, speaker, for accommodation and transport, social program, and for delegate. That is all part 1. Then part 2, students should be able to describe guidelines of opening, operating, and closing a training program. Then part 3, which deals with stress, should be able to differentiate between stress and burnout. To describe environmental and enterprise and individual factors that causes stress. To be able to also discuss the consequences of stress. And lastly, to be able to describe ways and approaches of overcoming stress. All right. So now let's talk about the items. The first item is that should be included in the checklist for training venue. In other words, when now you're going to be looking for a venue where training is going to be held, these are the items. Firstly, the booking should be confirmed. You book the venue, then it should be confirmed. Number of seats counted, availability of writing areas, the podium. For those who do not know what a podium is, it looks something like this. This is whereby a speaker will be standing when presenting to the crowd. Then we have to look into independent air conditioning system, water jugs and glasses, no smoking signs should be put in places, indicators outside the training room, and that can indicate for people who are coming from outside to know where the training is so that they are not lost. Lighting and control equipment, problems with the room, like echo or noise, private facilities for phoning attendant to take messages. Those are the items. Usually when they ask it, let us check how they can ask this in the exam. Let's check. There, look at question 5.4. It says list 6 items that should be included in the checklist for registration. We're still coming for registration, but you see particularly how they ask this sort of question. Let's see the second one if we can. There it is, 5.3. List 12 items to include in a checklist for accommodation and transport. So do you see how demanding it is? You really need to study here. So let us go back to it. Remember, I said I have 15 minutes. So one could also ask, what if they ask you to design a checklist? Design it uh, according to what has been given to you in page 32. There's a template there, so I tried to at least fill it in so it will look something like this. Do you see the company name? The name of the company is Cyril Mariposa Electricity Company. The checklist is checklist for what? This is for training venue. Then these are the action items, all 11 of them, date to be completed by, and the persons responsible. So it shouldn't be something that can be difficult for you. Usually for N5 training, they really do want require students to be able to design a checklist. But in N6, they just like to ask students to list the items. So let us continue. Now I'm just going to move on quickly because of time. Now the second one, items to be included in the checklist for equipment and materials. So these are the items. You should know them. Let's maybe read a few of them. Computer equipment, overhead projectors, extension cords, flip charts, whiteboards, and the rest. So the third one is items to be included in the checklist for what? For registrations. That is the third one. Available person at the registration table while people are coming in. Details about the program, name text for delegates, registration forms, bulletin boards. The fourth one is items to be included in the checklist for speaker. Remember, the magic number is 12. At least know 12 because I've seen it in a couple of question papers asking 12 of these. Items to be included in the checklist for the speaker. Invitation to the speaker, confirmation with the speaker, a topic of presentation, program to speaker, length of the presentation. These are the things that you should be discussing with the speaker of the program. Media materials available, type of audience, the speaker should also be aware of those. And look at the last one, whereby you should also have what we call a backup speaker. That's why we're saying this is now applying the training program in practice. You should prepare yourself in case the speaker perhaps does not pitch or does not come in the last minute. They ask to be excused. Who is prepared to be able to become a backup speaker? You should be aware of those. Let's go to the next one, which is items to be included in the checklist for what? Accommodation and transport, where everybody who's attending the training will be staying. Number of rooms should be known, type of rooms, room rates, number of VIP rooms, method of paying for rooms available, conference areas, confirmation of reservation, and the rest. All right, let us continue. Items to be included in the checklist for social program. It's just a few of them: meals and refreshments during the day, recreation facilities and programs, alternative programs for accompanying spouses, symbolic opening, ceremony, and symbolic closing. ceremony. Opening ceremony, we talk, an example could be cocktail party, and closing ceremony could be, handing over of what? The attendance certificates. Now, items to be included in the checklist for delegates, those who will be attending. Reminders to internal employees 1 week to 2 days before presentation. They should be reminded. In other words, send notices. Invitation to public relation officer, confirmation of attendance, receipt of program payment received. All of those. Yes, that is as much as we can talk in terms of the first part. Let me see time. All right. The next one we'll talk about it. I think this far, these are the things that you are supposed to know. Thank you.